we're currently in a debt spiral that ends in a deflationary depression. And if you didn't have a way to be able to move into a paradigm that accelerated GDP and actual growth of the economy, and we had to work in the archaic systems that we currently have now, with the advent of these technologies on the horizon, or even being implemented at somewhat at scale without the impacts, having driven the price of a certain asset much higher to be able to draw down debt against that, to be able to refinance everything and use that as collateral, it would. Japan's been in this position for the past 2.5, 3 decades. They're called lost decades. They've been in stagflation. Their economy hasn't grown. Their industrial complex has pretty much collapsed on itself. They're just now back to a position where they're starting to gain traction in their economy and grow GDP and have actual economic output again. That would be at a global scale if we don't get this right. If there's not an appreciating asset to be able to reprice things and anchor against, we used the dollar in the past, we've used gold in the past. There needs to be one top tier asset, and you would think that that would be the ledger or the protocol that all the value moved over and settled in, because basically you're backing that asset with all of the global markets and liquidity. That's what I believe XRP is. I believe that it is the backbone of the next financial system, similar to what bonds and US treasuries are today. If those collapse, we're screwed. And that's the whole premise. If we didn't have the stable coins to be able to drive demand for the issuance here in the US, because they have to back it with US treasuries, and everybody de-risked from the US dollar, our bond market collapses. We default on the debt because we can't service it without printing so much money that we collapse our own currency. So this is the only way out. It's backed into a corner. I think BlackRock and the G7 and many other people have been working on this for multiple decades, far further out than people really understand. We got Ryan Fruger, in 2004, and many things happening since then to be able to get this to market and scale and the adoption that we currently see today. And I think that BlackRock and Ripple are much more tightly coupled than people realize. Because that's what BlackRock was tapped to do. It was to fix the debt, package it up, restructure it, make sure that we didn't move into default and that there wasn't a total global collapse of the economy. And look, there's lots of things that BlackRock has done and probably will do that I don't necessarily agree with at a visceral response. But I would challenge people and say, look, like, things that get to the president or even the CEO of a corporation, if it gets to them, it's a problem nobody else could solve and probably sucks no matter how you solve it. Anything that gets to the president, there's going to be collateral damage on whatever decision he makes. And you basically have to weigh out, like, your objectives and what's best for your nation. And if you're the global reserve currency like the dollar has been, also what's good for other nations, because you are technically their steward, because they have to use your currency in order to be able to facilitate economic transfer and, buy oil or energy or all those other things. It's a lot to be able to deal with. So, people look at the decisions that the big players have made, and a lot of it seems counterintuitive to the average person and seems like it's against you, which I would agree with a lot of that, by the way. However, if you look at the other options and the other collateral damage that could have happened, if things didn't go this way, it could have been worse. Now, is there like a Project Looking Glass or something else that allows them to orchestrate things in a way with the least collateral damage and the best output? I kind of think so. And I think that's what we're going through right now. COVID sucked. Could more people have died? My dad died from COVID. Okay? So like first-hand experience. But, I mean, That or World War III? I don't know, man. That seems like less of a crappy situation than World War III nuclear holocaust. So, anyway, I digress. I want a seat at the table because I want to be able to see all these things and actually work in the interest of the average person. That's why I do what I do. That's why we're building what we're building. But all that being said, yes, we are absolutely screwed if we did not have XRP to be able to solve this problem.